The Truthear Pure is the giant killer that I've been waiting for. If you followed my channel for any length of time, you should understand the weight of that statement. This channel, and the blog that preceded it, were founded on the premise of avoiding hyperbole, and I try to make a point not to get swept away by launch hype. But the Truthear Pure is a sea change, a paradigm shift, and frankly, it's making me regret how positively I spoke about the juicier Defiant in my last review. The issue is that I received the Pure either the day before posting that video or the day of, and from the moment I heard it, I seriously considered pulling the Defiant review, rewriting the script, and starting over. I didn't, because what I said in that review was still true as of the time I wrote it down, but from the moment the first song played through the Pure, I knew that everything had just changed. I want to start this review with a quote from Critical's 2020 Cliff Notes post on the Moondrop S8. I'm not going to read the whole thing, as it's pretty long, but I will put a screenshot of the full post up on screen, and you'll find a link in the video description to the full article. Here's the gist. For years, Chi-Fi tuning felt like panning for gold, sieving endless dirt, hoping something shiny would fall through. Most products were pretty forgettable. A few were great, but for the most part, companies chased specs and driver counts over purposeful tuning. But then, something finally clicked. A few manufacturers started following actual tuning principles, primarily the now much maligned Harman target, and suddenly the Pan Sieve became obsolete. The gold rush ended because we weren't sifting anymore. We were just getting gold. And the Truthear Pure is what that looks like in 2025. I do want to make a quick note before we continue that my review unit was sent out to me by Shenzhen Audio, who also covered the import duties on the shipment. I have not been otherwise compensated for making this review, and as always, my thoughts and opinions are my own. Also, if you enjoy my particular variety of anti-hyperbole, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year, and something like 99% of my viewers aren't subscribed. Clicking that button costs you nothing, but it sends a clear signal to brands that there's an audience for honest, technically literate reviews. The Pure comes in the usual Truthear packaging, including the typical anime waifu box art. Inside the box, you get the IEMs themselves, a plastic organizer tray with 7 pairs of ear tips, which consist of 2 foam ear tips, 3 conventionally shaped black silicone ear tips, and 3 shorter, squatter, dark gray silicone ear tips, as well as a postcard of your new anime waifu, a user manual, a quality control pass chit, and the familiar pleather, snap buckle storage pouch that Truthear includes with most of their IEMs. The IEM design itself should be pretty familiar if you've already used the Hexa. You've got an industrial-looking faceplate, translucent black 3D printed shells, and medium-deep insertion depth nozzles with 3 soundboards at the face of the ridged nozzle. The build quality is excellent for the price, and they're also very comfortable, although the shells protrude a bit from the ear, so I wouldn't recommend sleeping on your side wearing these IEMs. I do have one small complaint. I really miss the white ear tips that Truthear included with earlier models like the Hexa. They were extremely high quality and didn't irritate my ears the way most silicone ear tips do. Truthear, if you're listening, please bring those ear tips back. The included cable is a massive improvement over previous Truthear offerings. Gone is the thin, memory-prone mess that looked like a clone of the equally awful 64 audio stock cable. This one is softer, more flexible, better built, and it actually looks pretty attractive. I do have 2 gripes about this cable, though. One, it's fixed to a 3.5 single-ended jack with no modular option. That's a little disappointing in 2025, but if you need balance, you can always swap it out for an aftermarket cable. And 2, it's kind of tangle-prone, at least when you're shoving it into the included storage pouch. Alright, let's pull up the graph and talk about the sound. I'll also leave a link to these measurements in the video description. Before we dive in, I want to touch on a controversial idea in the headphone community. The idea that tuning is technical performance, or at least that it explains more of what we think of as technicalities than we used to believe. I am not the person to fully unpack that, and I would love to see someone like Resolve at headphones.com do a deeper dive. But I bring it up because the Pure is the closest thing to a proof of concept that I've ever encountered. Anyway, in terms of the overall tuning here, we have something that is roughly in line with the negative 10 dB JM1 target, with just a little bit more sub-bass. Rather than a sub-bass shelf, you have a roughly linear slope from the sub-bass through the mid-bass and just about all the way through the lower mid-range, followed by a distinct ear gain region centered right around 3 kHz. There's a little bit of a scoop around 2 kHz just below the apex of the ear gain region. This tuning feature tends to improve perceived soundstage, which we will definitely get to later in the review. We then have a nice linear roll-off from the presence region down through the upper treble, with what looks like some extra juice in the lower and upper treble. Let's talk about my subjective impressions now. The sub-bass is clean, tactile, and well extended, and the mid-bass is snappy, fast, and punchy without bloat or smearing. Bass texture is a bit behind the best, so if you're hoping for ZR1 style nuance, you're not going to find it here, but it's still pretty respectable. Unless bass is your number one priority, this is absolutely going to satisfy you. As for the mid-range, male vocals are clear, intelligible, and just slightly thin, but they have the grit and bite necessary for aggressive genres. Female vocals are stunning, lush, rich, and totally free of sibilance. Mid-range clarity is genuinely jaw-dropping at this price, as is imaging and instrument separation. This is easily one of the most immersive IEMs that I've ever heard, regardless of price. I haven't tested it for gaming yet, but based on how well it tracks drum fill pans across the soundstage, I expect it would be fantastic for that use case as well. Timbre is also worth highlighting. There's no trace of papery, plasticky, or metallic character. And now for the real kicker. Detail retrieval on the Truthear Pure is simply absurd. It's definitely on the brighter, more energetic side, but it never veers into fatiguing for me. And the resolution here absolutely demolishes the idea that you need to spend $300 to $500 for great treble performance. The gap between budget and high-end has been narrowing for a while, but with the Pure, that gap might not exist anymore. If you've watched this channel for any length of time, you know that I do not make the claims that I've made in this review lightly. But I am saying it now. The Truthear Pure is a sea change. It is a shot across the bow of every IEM brand that is still pushing outdating tunings at inflated prices. If I had to assign a dollar value to what I'm hearing, I would say that the Pure makes the entire sub-$500 market obsolete. At this price point, I have no criticisms. None. Period. If you're shopping for an IEM under $500, just buy the Truthear Pure. There's a non-affiliate purchase link in the description. Thanks for watching until the end of the video. I appreciate it more than you know. I've got a couple more videos in the works, including a discussion on whether the new Sigma 17-40 f1.8 could replace my Sigma Trio, as well as a full review of the Colorfly CDA L1 dongle DAC. Until next time, this is Bedrock Reviews, signing off.